Our guest today is the Honorable Judge Kristen Shotwell, who is a judge with King County District Court. And Judge Shotwell is going to talk about how do you serve the defendant?
Wow, I'm so glad to be back. And this is a really important topic, so I'm glad we're talking about it. Serving the defendant is really important because before a judge can make a decision in any small claims case, or any case really, the plaintiff must properly serve the defendant, and they have to provide proof of service to the court.
Okay, what does service of process mean?
Well, it is the way in which somebody finds out they're being sued. So the defendant, and it comes from the Due Process Clause of the Constitution, if you're curious. But as I said, a court generally has no power over a defendant in a lawsuit until they find out about the lawsuit. So service of process is the way in which a plaintiff formally notifies the defendant of their claim and of the existence of the lawsuit.
Okay. And who can serve the defendant?
Anybody who's over the age of 18 who is not the plaintiff, and that's really important.
Okay.
No party to a lawsuit can serve the other party. It has to be any person over the age of 18, not a party.
What are the ways that people can be served?
Well, there are a lot of different ways, and it's actually a very tricky area of the law. But in small claims, there are a couple of options. One is service by mail that's registered or certified, so long as the signature of the person being served appears on that little green card we all get. And the other way typically is that the papers are just handed to somebody. You knock on the door and hand them the papers. That's called personal service. And there is a very long and complicated statute that people can reference. But I, again, recommend consulting with an attorney or even a process server, because there are people who are in the business of serving process, and they can help you understand the best way to serve somebody.
And can a corporation be served?
A corporation can be served, and sometimes it might be easier to serve a corporation because they have registered agents here in the state of Washington. And you can look up the registered agent for a particular corporation by going to the Secretary of State's website. But it's also a little bit tricky to serve a corporation. So, for example, if you're suing Target Corporation, you cannot just walk in and hand the papers to any cashier or anybody working there. There are certain corporate heads who have to be served, or they're registered agents.
Okay. And do the defendants on their side have to arrange to receive the papers?
No, Washington law is very clear on this. The defendants are under no obligation to arrange to receive the papers. Or even to open their door when the process server knocks.
Okay. And are there statutes that people should review that are related to service of process?
There are. Once again, I recommend reading the small claims chapter in its entirety. It's RCW 12.40. That's the small claims chapter, and there's a service of process section in there, and RCW 4.28080, and that is the long and complicated statute I referred to earlier, but that lays out how you serve certain types of defendants.
Okay. And you said this earlier, that you mentioned somebody called a process server. Can I hire somebody to do this for me?
You can. There are companies called process servers. You can Google them. The sheriff's department in certain jurisdictions will also serve papers for a fee. Sometimes, though, plaintiffs have to hire a private investigator to first locate their defendant, find out where they are in order to serve them. So process servers, private investigators, and sheriff's deputies can be hired to help plaintiffs serve their defendant.
Is there anything else people really need to know about service of process?
Yes, this is the most important point, probably. Plaintiffs need to understand that their case will not proceed until they prove that they have served their defendant. This is really important. A lot of people think the court is somehow going to serve the defendant. The court cannot get involved in the service of process because we are neutral. It is the plaintiff's obligation to serve their defendant properly and provide proof of that service by filling out the declaration of service form.
Great. Well, thanks again, Judge Shotwell. Really appreciate the information about service or process. It will really help people who are trying to get their case into the court properly.
Thank you for having me.